The bells of Copenhagen rang out across the city, echoing through the misty morning air. Their sound was pure, powerful, and filled with history, a sound that only rang when something truly extraordinary took place. Today, that sound carried a secret the world could hardly believe. Princess Leonor of Spain was in Copenhagen, and the reason for her visit had shaken every royal watcher across Europe. What began as a quiet diplomatic visit had turned into something no one expected, a royal wedding, hidden from the cameras, whispered only among the closest circles of two kingdoms. The Spanish royal palace had denied the rumors for weeks. Her Highness is in Denmark for official training and cultural exchange, the statement had read. But the truth was far more emotional, and far more daring. Because today, in the heart of Denmark's capital, Princess Leonor was marrying her longtime love, Prince Christian. The story began days earlier, when a small Spanish delegation arrived quietly in Copenhagen under the guise of educational meetings. No press was allowed. No royal announcements were made. Only those closest to both families knew the truth. This would be the day when two royal destinies finally became one. Inside Christianborg Palace, a private chapel had been prepared in silence. Candles flickered against the ancient stone walls. The air carried the scent of white roses and cedar. At the altar stood Christian, tall and poised, dressed in a formal Danish naval uniform. His eyes, though calm, betrayed the weight of emotion he had carried for years. For him, this was not just a ceremony, it was a moment that had taken years of quiet courage. When Leonor entered, the world seemed to pause. She wore an elegant ivory gown, simple, timeless, and full of quiet grace. Her veil shimmered under the candlelight, and her eyes glowed with the soft confidence of someone who had chosen love over expectation. There were no trumpets, no television cameras, no roaring crowds. Just a handful of family members, King Felipe and Queen Letizia from Spain, Crown Prince Frederick and Crown Princess Mary from Denmark, and a few trusted attendants who had sworn secrecy. The ceremony was conducted in both Spanish and Danish. When the priest asked for their vows, Leonor's voice trembled, not from fear, but from the emotion of years finally finding their meaning. "I promise," she said softly, "to stand beside you, not only as a princess, but as myself, free, faithful, and forever true." Christian smiled, his voice low but steady. "And I promise," he said, "to protect the heart that has made me braver than any crown ever could." When they exchanged rings, Queen Letizia discreetly wiped away a tear. She had known her daughter's strength, her discipline, her sense of duty, but this was the first time she saw Leonor's heart truly open. As the couple sealed their vows with a kiss, the bells of Copenhagen began to ring. Not the public, ceremonial chimes reserved for coronations, but the softer, older bells that once marked private royal moments, those known only to a few. And yet, somehow, the world found out. It began with a single post on social media, a blurry image of two figures leaving the palace, hand in hand, followed by a line of discreetly smiling guards. The caption read, "It's happening. Leonor and Christian, in Copenhagen." Within minutes, royal reporters flooded the scene. Cameras swarmed, phones flashed, and hashtags erupted across Europe. Hashtag Leonor Wedding Live trended in Spain, Denmark, and the UK within an hour. Crowds began gathering outside the palace gates, hoping for a glimpse of the newlyweds. Some shouted congratulations, others simply stood in disbelief. Many Spanish fans were overwhelmed. "Is this real?" One woman asked on live television. "Did our future queen really marry in secret?" The Danish people, meanwhile, celebrated with warmth and quiet pride. "She is perfect for him," said one older woman outside the cathedral. "Grace and strength, she belongs here." Inside the palace, the royal families gathered for a small reception. No reporters, no state speeches, just laughter, music, and an overwhelming sense of relief. King Felipe, ever dignified, raised a glass and spoke simply, "May this union remind us that the future is not only built by tradition, but by love." Queen Mary smiled knowingly at Leonor. She had once been an outsider herself, marrying into royalty from another world. She understood the quiet courage it took to do so. At the dinner table, the two young royals sat close, whispering to each other like they had finally stepped out of a long dream. For years, their relationship had been hidden under the weight of expectation. Every meeting had been guarded, every letter coded, every moment stolen between duty and destiny. But now, for the first time, they were free, bound not by diplomacy, but by choice. As the evening wore on, a pianist began to play a Spanish melody, gentle and familiar. Leonor rose and invited Christian to dance. Around them, family watched in silence, a mixture of pride, wonder, and the understanding that history was being written quietly before their eyes. Outside, the city glowed with celebration. The Danish flag and the Spanish royal standard fluttered together above the palace, a rare sight that few noticed, yet one that symbolized everything. By midnight, as the couple stepped out onto the palace balcony, the crowd below erupted in cheers. The moment was no longer secret, it was alive. Leonor looked out at the sea of people, tears glimmering in her eyes. Christian took her hand and whispered, "They finally see us." And she smiled, that radiant, sincere smile that had made millions around the world fall in love with her spirit. "I think," she said softly, "they always did." In the days that followed, both royal families confirmed what the world already knew. Yes, Princess Leonor of Spain and Prince Christian of Denmark had wed in a private ceremony. Yes, it had been kept secret for personal reasons. And yes, their union symbolized more than love, it was a bridge between two nations, two futures, two hearts that had chosen each other long before the world ever approved. In Spain, the reaction was mixed, shock, joy, awe. In Denmark, pride filled the air. But everywhere, the story touched hearts. News outlets replayed the images again and again, the young couple walking hand in hand through the palace gardens, the subtle ring on Leonor's finger, the glint in Christian's eyes when he looked at her. One headline captured the feeling best. "In a world ruled by protocol, love found a way." Weeks later, Leonor returned to Spain, this time as both crown princess and wife. The public waited outside Zarzuela Palace, cheering her name. She waved, poised but serene, and when asked if she was happy, she answered simply, "More than ever." Behind her calm smile, she carried the memory of that day in Copenhagen, the candles, the vows, the sound of the bells. A moment the world wasn't meant to see. But now, no one would ever forget. Because sometimes, the greatest royal moments aren't the ones planned for history books. They're the ones written by the heart.